Welcome to Acorn to Oak with Penny Quayle Pierce and co-host Matthew Donachie. Within each acorn, there is the DNA that strives to be a mighty oak tree. All it needs to reach its potential for greatness is to be activated. You are the acorn. On this show, we will share with you the tools and guidance you need to grow into the person you are meant to be. And now your host, Penny Quayle Pierce and co-host Matthew Donachie.
Hi, good evening. Please forgive my croaky voice. I'm sitting here drinking Coca-Cola, which is unheard of for me, but you know, such is life. Needed a little bit of a sugar buzz. So we're here this evening and we're going to basically be discussing what do you do when your New Year's resolutions fall flat on their face. And, you know, basically how to deal with the disillusionment of failing to move through the resistance to achieving your new goals. You know, how many of us dream big, have big goals, big aspirations, and in a few weeks they seem too big to achieve, too big to follow through on, and even impossible to pursue. They frizzle and die, and we end up feeling dispirited. Gosh, get my teeth back in. Dispirited and worthless. So you've joined us this evening so that you can, we can help you push through this and make them a reality in 2020. So just maybe handing over to Matthew whilst I get my teeth back in my mouth and maybe take a sip of that Coca-Cola.
Yeah, good evening everybody. I hope everybody's well, or good afternoon depending where you're listening from. Yeah, it's a really interesting show tonight, and it's something I've experienced many times where we set New Year's resolutions and it's sort of out with the old, in with the new, and forget the bad last year and sort of convince yourself that everything's going to be different. And the years of going round ever diminishing circles in that type of behaviour, I would say was I wish I had found this work quicker, because actually it's amazing how we do get stuck in these deep patterns and we don't realise just how they affect us, because every year, for every year that I had sort of not come through on my New Year's resolutions, you're creating evidence that's backing up that you're going to fail. So yeah, it's a really interesting one, something I've experienced a fair bit. So really looking forward to sharing that with you. So
I think we all have. This is the whole point, Matthew. I think we all get really fired up towards the 1st of Jan, and we think, right, we're going to knock that business problem into touch, and we're going to find the perfect relationship, and we're going to lose those few extra pounds, and you know, we're going to write that book, or we're going to have that article published, or whatever it is. And you know, it's written, or I can't get my project finished, or you know, it is just too big. You know, I'm going to have to work way too hard on this, and I'm just not prepared to do that. I'm not going to give up my free time. I'm not going to knuckle down. I'm not going to, you know, I deserve a better life than studying or working hard or putting in those extra hours that it will take, etc., etc., etc. And we just, as I say, we frizzle up. and you know, every aspiration and dream just goes to the wall. And it's usually because we've written down 20 amazing New Year's resolutions, but that it's way too much.
Yep.
And you know, it's just insurmountable. You know, we've built ourselves an Everest and a monster, which is actually draining us of our creative energy, and we just cannot see a solution. And it really does happen, I would say, to 90% of the people on the planet. And
Yep.
it is just disheartening. And you know, when we get disheartened, we lose our connection to our heart, and we start beating ourselves up. And you know, once you start beating yourselves up, as you were saying earlier, you know, you look for evidence of why it's not going to happen for you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
as soon as we start looking for evidence of why it's not going to happen, we basically set up this resistance within ourselves of it's not going to happen, oh it might, oh I could hope, but hope is useless, and all of those bouncing to and from. It's like playing ping pong with yourself. So I know I've had problems with sticking to my resolutions in the past, and what I have learnt is go for 3 big projects. Okay? And I'm much more likely to achieve those than having 20.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is, you know, I don't want to get to the end before we've even begun to discuss this, but it is really looking at what is it, what are those 3 big things that you would like to achieve in your life in 2020. So have you decided yet, Matthew?
No, that's put me under the thumb on that one. I haven't actually done that myself. But it is really interesting because very much when I remember when I first started training with Penny, it was when we were asked to sort of set New Year's resolutions, you would come up with 20 things. And it's looking at what's a need and what's a want, what's authentic and what could wait, and again sort of drilling it back. And I think that's where a lot of people almost set themselves up to fail, is we choose goals that are maybe slightly unrealistic, so very much, and because obviously you know where we come from, that nothing is impossible. Anybody can do anything. It's nobody's more capable than anybody else. But on the same time, when we're setting ourselves up goals, we sometimes set the bar too high to start with. So from experience, and I know a lot of friends as well who've started a gym membership in January, and then by February or March they've given up the gym, but then they're still paying the £50 a month subscription for the rest of the year because they signed up to it. And it's generally because we set the bar too high, and we think, well, yeah, I'm going to go back to the gym after not doing regular exercise. I'm going to go back to the gym and I'm going to be just like I was when I was 15, and I could run and it was easy, and all this. Again, this is just sort of delusion, and it's just remembering back to how you were when you were 15 or however old, and it's a lot harder than that. and it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes commitment. And it's the same with whatever you're trying to bring into your life or whatever you're working on. It takes solid commitment. Very much, I know we've broached the subject before on manifestation. It's you can't just ask for something and expect it to happen. You've got to put in the action, and you've got to almost keep reminding the universe, this is happening, this is what I'm working towards, this is what I would like to create. And it's in that action that you do get the results. And I think that's what people really struggle with, is the commitment. We sell out a little bit too easily and sort of let ourselves off the hook a bit too much. And again, it's sort of from one flip side to another. So we sort of set goals too high, but then and we beat ourselves up if we don't achieve them. But then we would sort of sell out a little bit and let ourselves off and have the odd burger if we're not supposed to, and this, that, and the other. But it's just having that, whatever your goal is, it's having that solid commitment. And yeah, think about sort of more realistic goals to start with. Anything is possible, even if you're wanting to create a multi-billion-pound sort of company, because you have a dream around creating an eco company or whatever the dream is. It's possible, but it's steps to start with. And I think that's where I used to get caught up. I used to be like, well, I'd like to change everything. And I want everything to instantly improve, and it's all going to be amazing. And then day 3, you're aching and you can't be asked to go for a run, and that's where it starts. And then, as Penny was saying, it's as soon as you don't do it for one day, because one of the keys being here is 21 days. 21 days is key to breaking addictions, to forming new habits, to really affirming what we class as NEDs, so new empowering decisions. Because if you practice something consciously for 21 days, you will naturally suppress it into the subconscious, and you will automatically do it. So 21 days is a really important sort of process on that. But a lot of people do generally make it a week, maybe 2. And if they just held out for the extra week, very much I know a lot of people after Christmas, there's a lot of talk around it last year, especially in the UK, was people were giving up alcohol or trying to give up alcohol in January because of the amount they had sort of drunk over Christmas and New Year. And you'd have all these positive posts on social media that they were doing it and it was going to be the most amazing thing, and it's something they've been wanting to do for years, and finally they feel ready to crack it. And then they would generally go quiet for a week, and then you'd see the odd post where they happen to be out in a pub somewhere, and they hadn't sort of announced that they were back on the wagon, but generally you would see the pattern I saw was about 2 weeks. So we set these intentions and trip up so early and just don't stick to it. I mean, we all have bad days, and it's kind of like if you do slip up, it's just having that commitment to notice that you've slipped up, take responsibility for it, tell yourself the absolute complete truth, and make a healthy choice and carry on with the intention. Nobody's perfect, and we all slip up, and God, I have done with alarming regularity. But it's that getting back on, getting back up, and dusting yourself off, and having that solid commitment to yourself, really. Because that's the thing I found sad when working through doing some of the work on when we set intentions and New Year's resolutions and that sort of thing, is it's kind of the pattern of not pulling through on something is actually almost a form of self-abuse, I would say, because it's we're not loving ourselves enough to fulfill one of our dreams. And that's really quite sad. And I know that's obviously going very, very deep and going to sort of what the root cause is, but that was what I found it was for me, is that actually I couldn't love myself enough to pull through on something. And so, yeah, I think that's why so many people sort of struggle with it. And it can go, it gets worse, that ever diminishing circle. The more years that you don't pull through on your aspirations and dreams, the more evidence you build up that it's not going to happen, and also that you won't succeed. It's something I've managed to flip using breath work and some of the other sort of work that we do at Acorn to Oak, and it is flipping that. Just because you've had a negative experience in the past and that's just how things have worked, there's absolutely no reason why you can't flip it round 360, because I've done it and I know many others that have as well. But it's that once you get in that pattern and you're not even aware of this, you could be telling yourself that no, I'm positive and things are fine and everything like that, but actually they're not, and we just don't recognise them, because we tell ourselves we're all right, rather than emotionally vomit on somebody and say, well, actually everything I planned to do this year didn't happen, and this happened and that happened. And so unless you have that way of emotionally releasing all of that, people hold it in. So for me it was a real interesting process going through the whole thing.
I think we were talking about last week. We were actually talking about the power of consistency, and we'll talk about it a little bit more after the break, which is just coming up right now. So we'll continue after the break.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
We are talking about your life. Ever wonder, is this as good as it gets? No, it could be so much better. At Acorn to Oak, we know you are seeking more happiness, joy, unconditional love, financial freedom, passion, and purpose. Find your unique mojo and live an extraordinary life. Want to know more? Contact us at our website, acorntooak.org.uk.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
So, hi again. Just before the break, we were talking about the power of consistency. And we talked a lot about it last week, and just reminding people that you want better relationships. So it may well be that you think about going to work and you see everybody smiling when you arrive. Everybody says good morning. Your boss is really happy with all the work that you've been doing and tells you so. And you suddenly things begin to change. And when you do it consistently, and as you heard Matthew talking about the power of 21 days, if you do it consistently for 21 days, it will basically rewire your mind so that you will have a more positive result. So an awful lot of what we'll be talking about this evening is about the mindset. And your mindset is what is going to help you change your life for the better. I'm not saying it will change your emotions, it will change your mindset. And the 10% of our brain, which is our conscious reality, is very much about looking at how you think, looking at what self-talk you do, and how you're going to change that in 2020 so that your own mind is on your side. And as I said, for me, the advice that I would highly recommend that you take is only pick 3 things to work on. Just 3 things. I did that last year, and one of them was actually becoming a radio host, which obviously I achieved with on radio. The next one was being accepted for a TEDx talk, which I'm in negotiation around right now. And the other thing was, I can't remember what the other thing was. God, my mind has gone, but I completed it within the first 3 months. And that's the whole point. If you pick 3 things, as soon as I had achieved 2 of the 3 things, then I went on and I picked another 2. And I completed those quite easily. And you just keep on reviewing and reflecting. And as you review and you reflect, then you can change the direction in which you're moving with ease. And if you don't reflect, then you cannot then take on the next project, because and very much last week we were talking about celebrating the achievements. And if you celebrate, and you can then put down that task and get on with the next. And this way you could achieve 20 things in the year. But if you set yourself those goals first on the 1st of January, as we've been talking about, you will find Everest too high to climb. So it's little baby steps. One of the things I learned, I think, quite early on in my life was just take baby steps. Because if you take baby steps, this is, again, one of my favourite quotes probably is how does an elephant cross the Sahara? 1 step at a time. And it literally is that. Whenever I have a task like that, it's, you've heard Matthew talk about it, I look at the end goal and then I work backwards. What I want to achieve, or a project I want to get finished, and then I work it back. So what actions do I need to be taking each day in order to achieve that end goal? And it works. It works with amazing results. And that way, it's just chunk sizes, one step at a time. If you try and run before you even start to walk, you trip over yourself. So Matthew, is there anything you'd like to add around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just, as you were talking, I was flicking through my book to try and find my resolutions for this year, or the year past. And one was move house, one was pass a facilitator's course, and one was expand private practice, all of which I've done. However, there's so much on top of that I've achieved as well that I never even planned, thought of, or dreamt would happen. So but it's just amazing, again, like you were saying, to reflect back and think, wow, I superseded last year with no problem whatsoever. So when, like you say, when you're looking at those three things and you've achieved all of them, but then you've got another list which is extra stuff, very much the top for me being the article. It's incredible, and it fills you with a bit of excitement for the next three things I'm going to create, and more. So yeah, very much. Working, when we were talking about working with a conscious mind, Penny mentioned about sort of making new empowering decisions. First time I did this, it's looking at what are you telling yourself. So when you have those moments of, whether it be daydream or you're just off in your own little world, and you could be dreaming about creating a business, or dreaming about creating the perfect family unit, or dreaming about yourself being more healthy and doing exercise. It's what do you, when you say I'm going to run 5k a week, and I'm going to do it every week for the next year. What does your mind tell you? So if you wrote down, I can have a healthy exercise regime every week, what's the comment that comes back from your own mind? And as Penny said, choose a few things. So get real specific, and but basically what you're looking for is the answer that you get back from your own mind. Because very much for me, if I just gave you an example, I would like to create 500k plus business. One of the first things that would have used to have come in would have been, you can't do that, you're not intelligent enough. So then what I would do is I would write it down again, and then see what the next comment came out, and do it 3 or 4 times for each one. And then what you need to do is create a new empowering decision, or a NED as we call them. Because basically what we're talking about here is your brain has naturally got used to you having certain experiences, maybe not having particularly great experiences. So every time you think about doing something or creating something, you will have these old decisions or comments that you say to yourself, which often block the dreams that you hope for. And that's why you also think, why am I stuck in this circle? Why do I keep having the same experiences? And it can be described as the prison of our own mind, because actually we're the ones that tell ourselves that we're not good enough and we can't achieve things, when actually we're the ones that know we can, and we should be on our own team. But actually we can, through forming evidence, it's one of the negative sides of the conscious mind, in my view, is that the brain is an exceptional computer and is very good at perceiving things. However, it can rationalise things and tell ourselves rational lies, and thus tell other people rational lies too. So it's very good on an information side, but it's like there's something on the processing side that isn't quite right when it comes to beating yourself up. Or so getting back to the NEDs, it's creating a positive affirmation that you can tell yourself for 21 days, and as Penny said, whether it be first thing in the morning, whether it's when you're having a shave or brushing your teeth, it really doesn't matter. But it's having the commitment and doing it every day, because if you tell yourself something enough, you will suppress it into the subconscious, and naturally when you have the thought of, oh, this is what I would love to create, or this is what I'm working towards, or this is what I am creating, you're using your new empowering decision, not the old thought forms that you're running on currently, which again was so big for me, because I often couldn't understand why life wasn't improving when I had improved myself so much and made such an effort to be a better person. And it's because actually I was running on programs within my conscious mind that were the old ones, that were still telling me that I'm not good enough and that sort of thing doesn't happen to me, and well, it's all right for everybody else, or sort of whatever it was. So it's a really important one to try and sort of work a little bit within the conscious mind and go for those new empowering decisions. Because as Penny said again, you will see huge changes, and it's just about having that commitment to doing it every day, and don't just do it for the 21 days, consciously do it every day. And why not once a day? Why just once a day? Do it a couple of times a day. And if you're like me and you're forgetful and you forget to do things sometimes, best way of doing it is set an alarm on your phone, set a reminder at whatever time, and it will remind you to do your little process. And it could take 30 seconds a day, but the difference you'll see in your life is quite incredible. When I really cracked this, I couldn't quite believe it. It was absolutely incredible.
It is incredible, and it just brings astonishing results. And you know, when when we do this process, we're actually changing the neural pathways in our brain, and it's called neuroplasticity. And it's you know, it's like taking out some plasticine and remodeling. And we just don't realise that we have this ability. You know, one of the things that I found really interesting, and I know you guys have heard my story before, where you know I'm severely dyslexic, and I taught myself how to read, but it took me 13 years before I could read properly. And then about 4 years ago, I had a stroke, a CVA, a stroke on my left side, which took out my left-sided brain, took out my the right side of my body. And I went through the process again, and what I did was using the same techniques that I had learnt how to teach my mind to accept letters. I taught myself again how to move my right side, and the neuroplasticity of the brain is you can make these connections whenever you want, if you know a system of how to do it. And this is what we're talking about this evening, is if for 21 days you pick 3 things to work on, you work on them for 21 days and see just how your own mindset shifts. So you no longer think they're impossible. You think they could maybe happen. And then you work on them for another 21 days and you get the certainty of, actually, yes, I'm working towards this. And the power of consistency is what helps you commit. And once you commit to yourself, then you start to love yourself more. And as you start to love yourself more, you suddenly realize that you're worthy of receiving the universe is gold. You're worthy of actually doing anything that you would like. Yeah? As long as it's not harming anybody else. Obviously that's a prerequisite. But it's really important to suddenly realize that you can change this. I mean, I used this technique when I first decided that I wanted to follow a spiritual path in my life. And one of the things that happened at that stage was I was trying to meditate. And I was working as an intensive care sister at the time, and therefore I was getting up at about 6 o'clock, maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock, in order to do some meditation. And everything would come up. I'd get up, first thing I'd do was go to the bathroom, come out, I'd walk down the stairs, and the kitchen is just off to the left. And I'd find myself walking to the kitchen and putting the kettle on and making myself a cup of coffee. And in those days, like an awful lot of nurses, I smoked. So then I'd have a cup of coffee and I'd have one cigarette. And then I'd think, I'll have another cigarette before I go and meditate. And I'd end up with about 3 minutes to meditate. Now, that's not a great start to the day. So what I started to do was set an alarm for a good hour before I needed to go to work. And, I would actually have an alarm on my phone and I'd put it for every 10 minutes. And the first thing I would basically say is, are you meditating yet? Then the second message would be, if not, why not? And then stop procrastinating. And, get your butt on the chair, girl. And it really helped me motivate myself. So using your phone, I mean, we're in a great age of technology. To put alarms on is a great way of helping you motivate yourself into going for those goals. Anyway, it sounds like we're going for another break. So we'll talk to you.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
We are talking about your life. Ever wonder, is this as good as it gets? No, it could be so much better. At Acorn to Oak, We know you are seeking more happiness, joy, unconditional love, financial freedom, passion, and purpose. Find your unique mojo and live an extraordinary life. Want to know more? Contact us at our website, acorntooak.org.uk.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
So we're back. So we were talking about the power of using technology to help you come up with different alarms or different ways of motivating yourself to push through the resistance to moving towards a goal. And another example of this for me was going through again. I think it was probably a little bit later that year, of realizing that I wanted to have a good relationship with the divine. I wanted to build a personal relationship with the divine. And, for me, it's Mother, Father, God, beloved, friend. And so for me, I put on basically every hour from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, my alarm would go off once an hour, and basically it just said, I love you, God. And each time that alarm went off, I would go, yes, I do. And that was it. And during that first 21 days as I was doing that, what I found was my heart would expand every time that alarm went off. I just felt my whole being expand into a totally different consciousness. And, I do it, I still do it every day, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. My alarm goes off once an hour, and it just basically says, I love you, God. And I've been doing that for the last 20 years. And it's amazing how many miracles turn up in your life when you commit to doing something like that. Okay? It's, the power of consistency. So just handing over to Matthew yet again, because I can feel him bouncing up and down. So he's obviously got something to add.
Yeah, because for me it is, what I love about doing this work is just making people realise just how we are co-creators in the life that we're living, and you do have the power to completely flip your life around if that's what it needs. And it's what I love about this process, is because for me it's probably the best thing is not only have I helped save my own life, but I'm able to help others save theirs as well now. And there's just nothing quite like this work when you do it on the level that we do, with the depth that we do it to. There is literally nothing you cannot deal with, heal, and create. If something isn't working in your life, it's just looking at it and going, right, well, here's a challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And as I said, and achieve, and it is the achievements that are the pearls beyond price. And over time, you just string those pearls upon price, into the most amazing necklace Okay, you guys, you may not want to wear a pearl necklace, but I tell you what, they're pretty neat. And you can always store them and have cufflinks made of them or whatever you want. But the pearls beyond price are memories. It's the juiciness of life. It's the laughs. It's the joy. It's the creativity. It's the being able to know your center, so you go through tough times with ease. I've had a particularly testing week this week. It started off with my 2.5-year-old son, bless his cotton socks, putting a penny in his mouth and inhaling it so that it stuck in his trachea, just above his the flap that goes, you either go to the lungs or it could go into the esophagus. Turning blue, I obviously swiftly turned him upside down and gave him a couple of good whacks on his back, which obviously shifted it because he started to pink up, which was great. But it didn't knock it free, so he didn't spit it out. So we realised then we were going to have to go to the accident and emergency, which then sent us to another accident and emergency, and we were with him in A&E for most of the day on Monday, which was basically he stayed in overnight. The ENT surgeons arrived later on in the afternoon, and it literally took them 30 seconds. He had a general anaesthetic. It took them 30 seconds to get it out. And talk about bounce back, he then was wired for the rest of the night. And my husband stayed with him overnight in hospital, and he came back home on Tuesday. So that was interesting. On Wednesday we had all of our house content arrive from Hampshire, because now we're living in Bude, which is about 3.5 hours away from where we used to live. And it all arrived on Wednesday. So myself and my husband have been working flat out for the last 2 days. And we finally got the Christmas tree up in the new house. We finally got the Christmas tree up this afternoon with Hector. And so we're happy but exhausted. And it's when you realise that achieving all of the things that we've achieved this week, there has been hilarity, there has been trauma, there has been belly laughs, there has been frustration, there has been all sorts of different things going on. And if you have a strong foundation, if you know who your authentic self is, you can ride the waves of life and enjoy it. Or you can sink under the waves and go, oh my God, how am I going to come up with a solution for this? And it's not just about solutions. It's about being in the center of self so that you can ride the waves. And things, triumph and disaster can happen, and you meet those two imposters just the same, which is a Rudyard Kipling quote. But it literally is you can hold your center, then you can hold your center. And that's very much what we've been talking about this evening, is, it's important to have big dreams. It's important to have big goals. And it's important to have big aspirations. But it's also important to have the commitment to be consistent in your action. And that's when you start producing the results that you would like, and you start actually moving forward in your life, and that is when you achieve big goals. So, again, I'd like to hand back to Matthew. So, for me, 3 goals for 2020. Get them under your belt and realise you can achieve, and then go for the next set of goals, the next 3. Okay? So just handing back to Matthew so he can have his talk. I've been talking a bit here now.
Yeah, and I think what it brought up for me, I agree with everything you said, and it's very much is also having a healthy sense of humour when these things when these challenging times do come up, because it's amazing how many people could, like, one situation can pull you off, and people would say, oh, I had a really bad week last week because of this one thing that happened. And you think, if as you said, if you're present enough to live the situation and ride the waves and have that sense of sort of humour of things when things are testing, we have the saying, how many reallys is it? Because you have someone that say, oh well, it was the weather's really, really bad today, and then someone say, oh well the weather where I'm from is really, 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 really bad. And then someone else said, well, mine was really, 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 really bad. And it's like, how many reallys are in your day? And what it helped for me is in whether you're sitting in traffic and you've got that person in front of you that's choosing to do 20 in a 40 zone, and seems like they have all the time in the world, and it would be your preference to get somewhere quickly. And for me, it's just about using the reallys. So it's kind of like, how many reallys do I have to use today? And having fun with it when things seem like they're not going well, because we're talking about moments and situations that happen over minutes, and you shouldn't let those situations ruin days or weeks. And it very much, again, like Penny said, it's about riding the waves and having fun with it, but keeping the focus on what's the bigger picture here, because that's what usually brings me round, is when I'm being impatient or something like that. The universe will put one of those drivers in front of me, or one of those shoppers in front of me, who chooses to shop 3 times slower than I do, but always seems to be where I want to be before I am. So it can be, you get frustrated, and then you think, well, hang on a minute, like, I haven't got to be anywhere. So what am I rushing around for? Do I really need to be getting worked up because I feel I need to rush around? And again, that's when you find a sense of humour, because it's only me that's winding myself up because I'm not doing it as quickly as I feel I need to do it. However, I'm not late for anything and don't have anything on, so there is no need to be quick. So it's just really funny how we can respond so differently in different situations. But it's that, if you have that sort of tough day or whatever it be, because let's be honest, we all have them. It is just keeping the focus and keeping the commitment and being, okay, right here, right now, I may not feel it. However, I'm still going to make the affirmation and make the effort. And you'll generally find in those times the universe will show you something. You will get a sign and you think, yep, okay, pull myself back into connection and crack on. And yeah, for me, the only thing I would like to sort of add before we go is very much the only thing I think really helped me on the New Year's resolutions is get real specific. And when you're stating something or writing something down, if it involves the word want, put it to the end of the list. But if it's something that genuinely you feel you need, then what I'm trying to get at is go with the feeling rather than the thought, because I would love jet skis, motorbikes, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, this, that and the other, but actually what I need is more love and joy, pretty much. So it's looking at feelings and needs rather than wants.
So we'll see you next week, and we'll talk to you then. Hope you've enjoyed this evening, and by all means get in touch with us if you'd like some help and guidance. Take care of yourselves.
Great. Take care, everybody. Speak to you next week.